And we have public comments pertaining to agenda items only. Anyone have a public comment on the bottom, the 2 agenda items? Okay, workshop, update on Squire Pope Carriage House Rehab and SCAD Pro. Lynn is got it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'd like to take you through the process we're working with SCAD Pro in developing our new Welcome Center. To give you a little bit of background, you all know this. We purchased the property in 2017. Some current conditions, if you have not been out there recently, I would encourage you to walk by, see the remarkable progress that's going on since the project first started. Exterior view, some current conditions of the interior, showing some of the rooms that we'll be talking about specifically this evening. The beginning of the summer, we contracted with SCAD Pro to have them design for us a new 540 square foot welcome center at the Squire Pope Carriage House. The SCAD Pro is a collaboration studio class currently being offered with 17 students from SCAD, 9 graduate students, 8 undergraduate students under the leadership of a professor from the Preservation Design Department. They have been tasked with designing the Welcome Center for us. What I will show you this evening is some of what they've done so far, but they work on a quarter system. So they started class, their first class was actually on Tuesday, September 12th was their first class. On Thursday, September 14th, Debbie Spanka and I went down to SCAD to meet the students and to present the project to them, give them their basic parameters, answer any questions that they might have. We gave them a brief overview of the history of Bluffton. We gave them an overview of how the municipality is organized, how things function, who you all are, how town staff works, how staff works with the public. On Friday, September 15th, the students, you see their photos in front of you, came up to Bluffton to tour the Squire Pope Carriage House. That was their first site feature, the first time that they actually saw it in person. Gave them a sense of what's going on. Also gave them an opportunity to get some initial research work done, ask any questions of staff that they might have. While they were in town, they also got to go over to the Hayward House Museum. They got to see the Garvin Garvey House, and they did a walking tour of the historic district and to see a little bit more about the Squire Pope in its context here in the town of Bluffton. On Tuesday, September 26th, Debbie and I had a virtual Zoom check-in meeting with them, see what their initial questions were, see how their design project was starting. These check-in meetings are designed to give us a chance to see what they're doing and to give them feedback, and also just for them to ask us questions and see, are we on the right track? Would you like to see more of this? Because the project really, the parameters are, you have 540 square feet of empty space with certain parameters, doors, windows, chimneys, staircase, and design a welcome center for the town, not just the 1 square mile historic district, but representing the 54 square mile town in its entirety. On the virtual check-in, they had some questions for us that we were able to answer. We provided with some additional information. And then on Thursday, October 12th, just this past week, I was in Savannah listening to their midterm presentation. This was the first time they had some plans, some renderings, some ideas ready for presentation. I'm going to share some of those with you this evening. It was also an opportunity for us to give them some additional feedback and answer, again, some additional questions that they might have. So as I mentioned before, their task was to design the 540 square foot welcome center. If you're familiar with the structure, that's everything within the red dotted areas. So it's principally 2 rooms with a front entrance going into the former Squire Pope Carriage House. Their task, obviously, is to work around the fireplaces that are in place, work around the windows that are in place, work around the staircase that's in place, because the staircase is important. That's how the communications department is going to get upstairs to their offices and exit the building on a daily basis. The color codes will mean something in a few moments, but these are some of the initial ideas of what they had, of what a welcome center would look like. They have decided to come up with an idea based on a branding scheme, a digital experience scheme, research approach, design approach, and the design approach really centers on Bluffton being eclectic and quirky. Their words, not mine. Some of this stuff will make sense in a minute, but this is the shaded areas are the principal positions where they're designing something to go into that space. So as I mentioned before, we have two principal spaces divided by that former wall, what used to be where the staircase is. As far as their digital experience, some of the things they came up with initially was to provide a welcome app that a visitor could download or a local could download to their iPhone to get more information about Bluffton, the Welcome Center, and they have some icons there to show you some of the ideas of how that Welcome Center app might work. They also wanted to do an interactive map or a series of interactive maps. They focused initially on doing a map to show the annexation of the town from the original 1 square mile to where we are today, so that a visitor can go and see how the town grew, how different areas fit into the town. And also, I think some of the newcomers into the town would also benefit from having that type of an experience. Yes?
Do you want a question, but then a question? Do you want us to interrupt you as you go, or do you want to do the whole presentation?
It's up to you. If you have a question or you want to interrupt me, I'm happy to do that.
What are these ideas that you're going to let council approve, or are we running with their thoughts?
So what will happen is when the process is over, we have the final scheduled for November 16th. At that point, they're going to give us a final package, intellectual property and a final design scheme. We will bring that back in front of you. You can decide to implement all of it, some of it, or none of it.
Okay. And a question, why a paper airplane on their design?
So the paper airplane, this was a concept that they pitched to us the first time last week. They had an idea of doing the theme of the Welcome Center, lay out everything as kind of a love letter to Bluffton. They were capturing on the heart of the Low Country logo. And they pitched this idea about having the paper airplane with the heart. One of our initial comments was, that's nice, we need to see more of that, and how will that actually be implemented in the Welcome Center. But they created the logo. They wanted a Welcome Center logo, so they created that for us. So that's the paper airplane.
What's the total square footage of the building?
Of the building entirely? It's about 1,500 with everything attached. So the side area, which is a separate building.
What about the heated?
I'm not sure the exact number. I can get that.
588 on the bottom. I was curious what the top was.
It's about the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the top is about the 500.
The side portion, the connected side portion
Gotcha.
takes up to probably about 1,500
Yeah.
square feet.
First and second floor total,
First, second floor, and the building to the side.
and the warming.
Not including the porches.
Not including the porches. So the structure, the way it's configured is when we had the house up on cribbing about 9 months ago, we did discover that it's actually 3 outbuildings that were coupled together. We thought it was 2, it turned out it was 3. Those porches were not included in any of that square footage because those came later. So here's some of the renderings that they initially came up with. This is a view from the kitchen wing looking west. We did remove one of the interior walls, which were non-load bearing, non-historic, to open up the space a little bit. We had some ADA requirements to get a wheelchair into that front door and make that turn to get into that other room. So this is a rendering. That wall has been gone. And these are some of the ideas of things they wanted to propose. So they looked at design elements, furniture, fabrics, all those types of things. And these are just initial concepts. We will see better once they get to their final. All the furniture you see, all the cabinetry, display signs are movable. They're on casters. They can be moved around. One of the things we asked them to do was actually make things flexible so that we can reimagine the space or augment the space or change the space around so it's not something that's just static. Things will be attached to the walls, but those will also be able to be moved around. We can change content as we see fit. This is in that smaller room looking to the east. And then another view out the windows is looking towards Church of the Cross with the new fireplaces installed at some of the other things that they have on the walls, for display areas. One of the nice things that they did, which I gave them huge kudos for, is they did a video. So without sound, this is actually a virtual video of you as a visitor coming into the property. Obviously, you're coming up to the front door, which is the front door from the Wright family house that will be restored. You'll come up to the visitor center kiosk, which is actually movable. We can move that around. And then you'll see some of the display elements that they've designed for us. Opportunities for displaying artifacts, to tell stories. Again, all the furniture is on casters where it can be moved around as need be. Window treatments will be rethought because they were running into an issue with how to be hung. So those will be changing.
But they're simple. I like the
Very
clean.
simple. They didn't want it too cluttered. Obviously, it's a small space. Things fill up quickly. For fire safety reasons, we can only have 18 people in at a time before we get called on the carpet by the fire marshal.
Is that an original fireplace behind the stairways?
The fireplaces, the mantles are the originals.
But was there one back in that other room?
There was, yep,
Okay.
yep. And of course, the chimneys have been completely rebuilt.
Ben, so when you come through the door, I didn't see like a desk or anything where somebody's there to greet you.
So as you come through the front door, you'll notice when the door opens, there is a fixture right in front of you. It's a small desk on wheels.
Okay.
And if I've queued up the video right, you'll see it as we walk through that door right there.
That's what that is, okay.
That's what that is.
Okay.
So that
Station for somebody.
station will be for a staff person to greet guests. And also that's on caster so it can be moved around. We didn't want anything permanently installed that you'd be having to walk around or work around, depending if you want to have an event there or a special lecture or something. But that's where that welcome desk would be.
On your people, this is about the size of, say, the roasting room. I would confirm 18 is your max because I think their max was 70.
I think you're right.
So I would get that in right. I think you can push that.
Yeah.
They're not selling alcohol either.
Right. Okay, so for the next steps, we will actually be having a conversation with the SCAD kids, and I call them kids because they are, on Tuesday next week for our third check-in. That's going to be a Zoom call just to see what they've done since we've had the midterm, how they've handled some of the comments that we've given them, in particular things like the paper airplane, how they've handled some other issues. A few of them will be in town on Thursday afternoon. They want to do a walkthrough to take some measurements, in particular to look at how they might address the window treatment issue with the new. Part of the problem is we had fire sprinklers installed. That takes out some of the head space over the windows where you can't hang a curtain rod now where they thought they might be able to.
Thursday this week or Thursday after the?
Thursday this week, day after tomorrow. And then finally on Thursday, November 16th, there will be an in-person final presentation at SCAD where they'll give us their final package of what they're proposing. And that's actually akin to what their final exam would be because they're all taking the class for college credit, so they're getting grades for this. So that's their final exam. At that point, they will deliver to us a package of deliverables, all the intellectual property, all the designs, all the ideas, everything. And then at that point, we'll come back to town council and say, here's your opportunity. You can implement it all, some of it, or none of it.
And who will make that decision?
I'm sorry?
Council.
Council will make that decision.
We will. Okay.
Yeah. We'll present to you what they've come up with, and then you can make a determination how much you can phase it over a period. You can do, like I said, all of it, some of it, or absolutely none of it. Do you have any other questions for me?
I'll start here and we can work our way down.
Sure.
Ms. Frazier?
More so a comment and admonishment. I love the direction and how things are being designed here. Really excited for this. As they're working on the narratives, I would just like to encourage staff who's overseeing it and them to not be afraid to be accurate as they're doing the narratives and not to romanticize it in a way that becomes offensive to other people. And for example, one of our other welcome centers listed plantation owners as planters. And I think if we're telling history, history has done a great job of representing itself, and we don't need to make up things.
Yeah, and that's something that we've actually explained to them on a couple different occasions. We want you to, A, tell the full story of Bluffton, both as geographically, not just the 1 square mile, but the 54 square miles, but also to make sure you capture not all the different time periods, but all the different elements of what makes Bluffton and the history and even what might be considered uncomfortable, but not to whitewash anything, but to make sure that everybody's getting the proper story.
Larry, you got anything? Fred, anything?
The interior, to me, it looks too modern. I thought I would walk into an historic building. I want to see history as well.
Okay. Now, we will still be able to see the historic doors, windows, stair, fireplaces. So all that will still be there, but I understand maybe making.
You think in color, because they can't put furniture in there. It's basically an open shell to get people in.
No, but I think there's an opportunity to do something a little bit more traditional.
Traditional fabrics, because you really have walls, floors, and window treatments. I don't know.
When I look at it, I see a new building inside. Yeah.
First of all, I think it's fabulous how you're going about this with SCAD and the students, and I think they bring a dimension that the rest of us don't have. But a couple things. The little airplane note, I can't speak for anybody else. To me, the first thing that registered with me was the thing from the movie with Forrest Gump with the feather.
Mm-hmm.
That's what registered with me immediately. I just found it as a different version of that. The second part is I'm undecided at this point about the two pieces of art in the middle there. They seem to take up space. I know we want something there, but I don't know what it is. Even if it was something like a bronze representation of the past of some kind sitting on one or two of those, not just necessarily a vase.
Mm-hmm.
To Bridget's point, a lot of history could be told by just a little bronze statue or something along those lines from the past.
So
Are you talking about that?
these elements here, the bronze or the vases that are on the displays, these are actually just a placeholder at the moment.
Gotcha.
So they're not proposing a vase there. They were thinking something along the lines of, is there an artifact or there's something that we want to display? Maybe it's even something like one of the town awards that we've gotten or something. It's a placeholder at the moment.
Well, I thank you for telling me that, for clarifying that. And the other part of the design that is interesting is the fact that everything's movable. I think that opens up lots of opportunity. First of all, if you find that you build it and you've sat there and you've looked at it for 3 to 6 months and you go, you can do it. You can
Right.
change it. So I think that's wise. So that's the only comments I have.
Great.
So, quick couple things. On their tour, I think it would be nice for you to offer some of these guys, or even myself, to meet them. They've not met council.
Sure.
It's always really nice for students who might need recommendation letters one day down the road. They get to meet, some people might think we're important enough to, wow, y'all care enough about it, you're coming. So
They're scheduled to be here Thursday at 4:30.
please maybe Marcia or get with Stephen. I just think it would be nice. I'm not in town, but
It won't be everybody, but it'll be at least the project leader, Noah, and a few of his people.
three things, just real quick. I like the little the airplane, but if none of us kind of figured it out somewhere, they got to let us know what it meant. Maybe it's a treasure hunt question. I don't know. Please, on that, I think we've got, and I know Debbie was part of our logo with the DMO. Let's not change all the money we spent on our Heart of the Low Country. And I love the heart. I love, it doesn't have to look like it. And maybe those colors incorporated in it match our logo enough, but I think Debbie can really give guidance on that. The signage, personally, I like it. It might be a little too contemporary. So I do see like the beaded walls. That was very much in the old house.
Mm-hmm.
The floors look like they're going to be rough, more kind of versions of what was in there.
Right.
But our signage that's in Old Town with those colors, I think could be more on what Fred's kind of thinking of, those
Sure.
yellows and browns. Just, let's not recreate anything and people are confused because they do kind of we're kind of branded with our colors. Then, I had one more thing. What was it? Signage, compliment. Oh, I thought we were going to and maybe it's in there, but in these placeholders, are we going to show the artifacts and the story of the house on top of it being a welcome center?
Yes,
They know
so
that.
one of the things they're going to be designing for us is there's a cabinet, a green cabinet, and I'm sorry, I'm challenged with right and left, against the windows by the fireplaces. There's two of those that are, again, movable, and they're specifically for the artifacts that came out of the front yard. So obviously, we can't show everything because we have a lot, but also will give us an opportunity that periodically we can be changing those items out. But that's what those specifically cabinets are for.
Maybe show them the sign that we have all around town with, this is where you are, talking about the history and all the things. I think that get it. And then finally, I'm sorry, what Bridget talked about. If we do not get input from areas on the actual history that we're putting here, after we've printed and put it up, we will hear from them.
Right.
We heard with our big pieces that we put around town after, we just at least have to have the opportunity, and we didn't give people the opportunity then. And there's some unfactual stuff in there.
Sure, so I've already been working with them on getting some of the suggested copy done. I've also directed them, don't worry about giving me final copy, because I want it to be able to be reviewed by interested parties so that we're making sure that we're getting it right.
Okay.
Mayor, one more question for me,
Yes, sir.
please. So, and I don't know what that is above the mantle there, whether it's a piece of art or whatever. It seems to me, just an opinion, a teleprompter of some kind.
So on this
They could
particular,
go through the history.
sure, so on this particular fireplace, there's already going to be hardwired for a TV. They didn't show it in this rendering, but there was planning for a TV to be there. So we'll have that opportunity to program that TV any way we deem fit.
I'm proud of them. Great. So how will council get the notification on Thursday?
I will work with Marcia to send out a calendar invite for Thursday, and we're meeting over at the house.
Well, we can't, but there are two of us go there.
Well, I'm out of town, so it definitely can't be me, but I just want y'all to have the opportunity. So if somebody, first two to raise their hand.
Steve?
Glenn, the check-ins, your next check-in, is it going to be virtual?
Yes, it will be virtual on Tuesday.
Next
week.
Tuesday? We can send y'all an invite for that as well, for
If
the
they need to
check-in
meet them
virtual.
in person, I really want to push this. Would two of y'all be able to meet them Thursday? Just to say hello.
We'll send the invite and we'll see who can.
Okay. But again, on the Zoom would be great. Great job, Glenn.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Yes, Debbie?
If I can just pick, piggyback on what Glenn said.
Just get to the microphone.
Just get- yeah.
The students started their introduction of this with a love letter through time. And I just wanted to give you that context of where that, because my feedback to Glenn was unless they prominently display this love letter through time, the airplane is not going to make sense. And I will say that the love letter through time was the most poetic thing I've ever heard. And I said it was almost like an American Idol audition, that you get the emotion and then we talk about technique. And so I said, love letter through time, and when they read it, I literally had goosebumps listening to it. But I just wanted to give you that context that that's where the airplane comes from. But again, if it's not prominently displayed, and when I asked the students where would that be to set the stage for the logo and everything, they hadn't decided that. So unless that's prominently displayed and captures that emotion, the airplane's not going to make sense. But I thought, the poem was really quite stunning. Yeah, so a love letter through time.
You have the letter from Gus, right? We're implementing that into all this.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yes.
You can see it.
and you can actually see it on the wall right there.
Oh, I couldn't read it.
Yes,
Sorry.
computer generated, but that's where it is.
Great job.
And the time capsule will be yeah.
Anything else on this one?
All I want to say is I agree with Fred. I was thinking it was going to look old, like but it looks very modern, and I mean, it's beautiful.
I can say from
That's what we're
experience, it's a SCAD aesthetic.
I'll also say, I know that's not coming from our two frugal ones over here, is, antique and older increases cost too.
I like it, but now what are you going to do?
Cost.
You got two, and one
We
person's
are,
not
we
saying
are.
You pay
anything.
for knowledge.
Maybe give them it's paint, who knows what it is? It could
I
be
will make
pretty
that suggestion
ugly
to them that
curtains.
they look at some other potential options.
Make them-
Well, I'm not opposed myself to a blend, which is what you kind of have here. I get it. That's just me.
I didn't ask you.
We got a bet, so we got to be done and move on to Pat. We don't want to cut Pat short. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Pat, CIP update.
Well, I am going to give you an overall update of the CIP program, but just on Squire Pope Carriage House, I want to give you an update of where we are with that contract. We signed the contract in October 22. We got a notice to proceed on January 1st, and that contract has a duration of 450 days, for a year and 3 months. So the initial completion date was set at the end of March.
Told everybody January.
I know.
That's why you're saying that.
That's why I want to make this clear, but we have had 3 change orders. I won't go through the details, but we've had 3 change orders that will add about 60 days to the contract, so we're looking at the end of May. We're pushing, Brian is pushing for April, but we're,
Frank.
by contract, they can go to the end of May.
Why does it say initial completion date was March 31st, 2023? That was
based on the notice to proceed happening on January 1st.
24.
You got a typo.
24, right?
Excuse me.
That would have been some pretty quick work right there. That wouldn't have been but 3 months.
That's why I gave them a whole nother 9 months to finish.
You didn't catch that.
I know I did it.
Anyways, this is the work items that have been completed to date. The last bullet point to the bottom is plumbing, electrical, HVAC, sprinkler system, rough end. That is now done and ready for inspection. So we'll move on to the work that needs to be done from this point forward. A lot of that is kind of exterior work, which you haven't been, everything's been working inside to this point. So now in the next month, probably in November, you'll start seeing them working outside on the exterior of the building. We are at the same time, we've got our landscape architect working on, they've done design development on the landscape and hardscape. So we're going to get the design done for that so that we can bid that and have that landscape come right online right after the building is completed. So basically, we're looking at finishing, the entire construction of landscape and building in this fiscal year. And then we'll be coming to you in the budget process to acquire funding for the FF&E and the upfit of the Welcome Center, which we don't have in the budget at this point. So that will be something that will carry forward into 2025. Any questions
Think you'll
from-
have any money left over from this?
Not from this one, no. I don't think so.
Questions on the first thing that he has? Anyone from over here? Anybody? Just a couple just from recent things that have taken place. First, you're talking about the FF&E for upstairs and downstairs.
Yes.
And we haven't quite figured out who's going upstairs, but we're thinking, right, like office space. Are there going to be any requirements to build bigger than normal, any kind of electrical boxes or anything that we can make sure get out of the view of the house? I mean, is that the exterior work with Dominion coming in? Are they going to make you, whatever they make you do?
So we've already brought in all the electrical,
Okay, so wherever
Elements.
stuff's been put, that's where it's going to be? Okay.
a lot of it's underground, and it's all stubbed out into the building now, and comes up through the foundation, the crawl space.
Okay.
Okay, this is the update of the capital improvement program. Of these 37 projects, they can kind of be lumped into 5 different buckets. So the first bucket is the projects that were ongoing in 23 and we moved over into 24. We're familiar with all these: Bridge Street, Oyster Factory parking lot, LEC is done, Garvin Garby's done, Buck Island Road culvert replacement is done, and we're closing out the sidewalk project on Simmonsville Road. Just a couple photographs of those completed projects. The next bucket is the projects that are currently under construction to be completed soon. Most of that is kind of being completed in the next 3 or 4 months, with the exception of the carriage house. New Riverside Barn, that is scheduled to be completed in January or December or January. Same thing for BIS 5, Phase 5 Cure. And New Riverside HD Sewer Extension Phase 2 and 3, where we've got the main line in and currently installing grinder pumps and the connections. Rotary hardscape is substantially complete with the exception of a rain garden. We're working on trying to finish that before the end of the year as well. And then Monday of next week, we're starting construction of the playground at DuBose after the Arts and Seafood Festival is over. Do you have any questions so far on these first 2 buckets?
What does cure mean?
That means
That sewer cure.
we had a contract, and we had a contractor. We had to let that contractor go, and we had to fix what they didn't do correctly.
Oh, okay, okay. And then on the back slide, you just said LEC, is that finished, their challenge course?
Challenge course and the impound lot is finished.
But are the,
Oh, have they brought in the equipment?
yeah.
No.
Okay,
They have their ones they've been using, but we're looking at trying to get some permanent ones built.
okay. So it's not open for use, it's just ready?
Yeah, we have our temporary equipment there. We're building out permanent equipment, but we haven't found a place that would custom make them yet for us, so we're still searching.
Any questions on either of these
Yeah, I have a
two?
question. So from that company who was removed from continuing to work on the Buck Island Simmonsville Sewer Plan, have they been removed from being able to bid on future projects?
I can tell you, we're not going to consider them ourselves. And I think they've been approved, recertified for Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority, if I'm not mistaken. So they can do future work, but we're not. I don't
I
think.
was asking because I know that's a costly, fix. Have to go back and address some of those things, so that should be something.
We factor in past performance on our selections.
Everybody okay in the first two? You got
Yes.
anything? Okay.
I told you a week ago about what's happening out at New Riverside. I wanted to show you a few slides of what's going on out there. It's starting to show.
Good.
Then this bucket is kind of the contracts that we want to get executed now that you've approved New Riverside Barn Park, the Phase 2. the barn, the playground, the restrooms, and all the hardscape. And then Oscar Fraser splash pad you approved last month, and then you already approved Boundary Street lighting several months ago. We're just waiting for Dominion to put the equipment in. We're struggling with them right now because they're short on staff and they just can't get it done. But we have no choice. Oscar Fraser Park event area, we brought that to workshop to you a while back, and it's under design right now. We would like to bid it next month, bring it to you in December, and start construction in January. We're going to do January, February, March, maybe April of construction for that event area.
I thought we passed that on Tuesday. What did we vote on Tuesday?
Splash pad.
Splash pad,
what you were talking
I'm
about.
talking about the Oscar Fraser
Oh.
Park event area.
Oh, event area.
Oyster Factory.
Oyster,
You said
yeah,
Oscar
oyster.
Fraser Park event.
Excuse me?
Okay, Oyster Factory Park, got it.
It all runs together.
Okay. Any questions on these? This is the contracts that you've seen recently or will see shortly.
You said this a minute ago, the Boundary Street lighting,
Yes.
can you see that happening again?
Well, we're waiting on Dominion. We're hoping that all of those lighting projects, Bridge Street, Boundary, Oyster Factory Park, all will happen before the end of the year. But they're struggling to get manpower to do these installs. Just a reminder of the event area plan.
Can you go back to that, Pat? If you could give a refresher, what's going to be the material that's placed on the perimeter there? Currently where it's just dirt? Like what are we
Oh,
going to?
in the interior is that coral stone material that's similar to what's behind the Hayward House, that material. The perimeter walkway, I'll have to check, but I think it's tabby oyster shell concrete. And there are some pervious pavers and then obviously decking. Most of it is pervious material.
I was asking because nothing is going to like obstruct the roots of those oaks that are there, right? What we're putting down goes along with.
We're going to be careful. There's a deck around one of them. A lot of those roots are exposed now,
Yeah.
so a lot of that paving material will be placed kind of on top of existing grade, and then we'll backfill some areas. So
Gotcha.
we're going to be careful of that.
Just one more before you go off of that. Drainage, are we, all of this is just going to be a natural drain, stormwater drain? It's just going to run off from all directions, or is there a method to shoot it in a certain direction?
Most of the drainage kind of flows to the east, so we're going to go underground with it where we can and try to retain it underneath the paving areas, away from trees.
Which is going to be a tough job, probably.
That's what we did in the parking lot.
I was
Basically,
going
all
to say,
the
we've
drainage.
done it every other
Oh, I'm
part
just
of,
talking about with the amount of roots that you have
Yeah,
from these
yeah.
big trees. It's going to be
I have a question.
touch and go.
yes, sir.
So there was discussion one time on this topic about that 10-foot easement in the back there. And I thought y'all was going to talk with them again to see if there was a possibility. You know, we talked about the oyster crabbing dock and things like that at some point. Have we done anything with that, or?
No, we haven't really, but if it is in fact just a 10-foot or a 30-foot easement, that's probably not enough for OCRM to allow us to have a dock off of that. You need to have a certain amount of frontage to be able to get justification for a dock.
I don't know what the easement width was. I just know we talked about it.
I did have a conversation with Robert, and that is part of the Coal Cocktail House, and it goes all the way down. So anything we would do with that goes into the restrictions that they have on that Coal Cocktail House. So if we were to try to get them to sell us that property, that 10-foot stretch, or do anything like that, I know there are more partners involved in that besides just the Historic Bluffton Foundation. So it would require them going into the restrictions that are on that property and getting all people to sign off on it, which I think includes the church.
But we could partner with them because that has to remain an educational building in the will. And I think we could partner with them and build it. If we are serious about a crabbing dock, that would be an educational function, possibly. But
Approach it from not asking to purchase, approach it from an easement.
They approached us about purchasing
Did they?
it. Yes.
Well, but that you're saying that
they
didn't work.
can't. If,
So I would say go back and approach it from an easement perspective.
Okay, the next bucket is projects that are under design, and we expect to start construction this fiscal year. 4th Street lighting, the design's complete. We got to get some easements for that project, and that's underway, and we kind of expect to do that project in the spring. Miscellaneous park improvements that's under design is the Buckwalter Place Park Phase 2, I guess the Evercore side. We hope to bring you some concepts in the January workshop, and we have some money in the budget to do start some landscape improvements this fiscal year, but that will carry forward into future years. New River Linear Trailhead improvements, that's been approved by y'all. That's restrooms under fabrication right now, and we expect to have the infrastructure in place to install that this fiscal year. Sarah Riley Hook's Cottage, all the design professionals are under contract, and the first thing that will probably come out of that really will be the architectural design of the cottage itself. And they're moving forward with that design right now, and we expect perhaps have to be able to bid something this spring and probably have a late summer start on something like that. Pritchard Street drainage and streetscape, it's at 70% level design right now. We're in the permitting and bidding. We had a pre-construction meeting this morning, a pre-application meeting this morning with growth management. And that is a project that we would like to have under construction this summer while the school is out of session.
You're talking about right out here,
Pritchard Street.
on this street right here?
Started out primarily as a drainage project, but we've turned it into more of a drainage and streetscape project with lighting and sidewalks as well.
Figure while we were digging it up to put pipes in, we might as well go ahead and fix everything.
Sidewalks and.
Sidewalks, drainage, and everything, and tie it all together.
And the last item on this bucket list is New Riverside Village Park. By contract, we're required to do some improvements to that park. We're just in the planning stages to determine what those are, but we, I think, are hoping to do some improvements this summer.
But I need help with that. Oh, that's it? Okay, I got it. Can you show that again? Is that it? The Village Park?
No. New Riverside Village Park is at the entrance to New Riverside Development on the left-hand side. There's a park that was part of a land swap between the town and the developer.
Where the library was supposed to go.
Okay, the
Part of
matter-
that
well,
was-
I thought it was ready. I've heard today, just in a conversation, this was ready to turn over to us. The developer did it all. What else do we have to do with it?
So part of the agreement is we're to put a playground and similar stuff in there for the community.
And that's still being, I thought you were going to talk to them about,
We tried to talk to them about them taking the property back and maintaining it, and they were where they're at with with their POA and their regime and all that. The owner of the property said that he didn't think he could get that done.
are they forcing us to put playground equipment
It's
there?
part of the contract we have in place.
But can y'all not get a gentleman's agreement not to do it when we just put it across the street?
We can ask them, but it's going to require bringing that back for an amendment for everything, and we can see if they're willing not to require us to do that. But we're requiring them to meet all their obligations on their side of the contract.
That's a darn good question, because you got the biggest park in all of Bluffton across the
Oh,
street.
South Carolina.
Yeah, which brings up another question. We've all heard this numerous times, but getting from the apartment complex across the street, I think we need to review that and see how we can set it up safely to do that.
And that was our conversation with the property owner, is let us take the money we were going to invest into a playground for when the library was going to go and make it a public space that no longer is going to exist. Let's put that into improving the crosswalk or looking to get people across safely. But that did not come back with positive results on their end.
How about open space, a passive park, like,
That did not come back with positive results on their end.
I'm curious, because the person we're talking
The
about
owner.
is very amenable to any of this.
And when we had the conversation, he said that he didn't think with the way that the regime is set up and the POA that they could make any changes to anything without opening up their regime, and because they've already got people property sold and agreed to things, knowing that things are coming in the future, and he doesn't know that he can change that without opening himself up.
But didn't we trade the property with the idea of, I mean, we helped him when we traded places with the property, right?
But the agreement that council agreed to was that we were going to take that area around the pond and turn it into a park, take over the trails that are around there, and put a playground area for the community. You can pull it up if you've got
Well,
it.
no, I was just going to give a quick update just to just clarify the latest discussion. So we did inspect the property and the park area, and all of the improvements are per the plans, just waiting on getting the permits all finalized for the dock and that observation area, if you recall. So they've got their permits, just have to do some work just to make sure that all of that is structurally sound, and then they're ready to actually swap that, or, finalize that out and finish that swap. Per the agreement, like Pat said, there are certain things that the town is obligated to do. Signage, we've talked about signage, any site furnishings, the dog waste stations and the garbage cans and benches and all of that, Pat said that we're in the planning stage, and also a playground. However, we have discussed, like Stephen, town manager, said that we already have a playground across the way, so don't know what we need to do legally to maybe amend that, or maybe it's real limited. The grand scope is not spelled out in that agreement. So we will work forward with that. As far as actually not swapping the property, that's where, like I said, they already had all of their documents in place. So when they sold off pieces, it was under the understanding that that was going to be a public park with certain elements. So that's where it's a fine line of, it's just how big and what exactly does playground mean? Is it an open space and just some benches and some, areas to play, or what that is? And they're agreeable to that verbally. It's just.
Because I was told today they're about to turn it over to us, so
Yep,
they're going to
they're-
turn it over to us without a playground.
Right, because we're obligated to build it.
But
They're not
I think
obligated.
you've got to look at, let's not redo that park in front of Stock Farm.
Oh,
I mean, seriously, who's sat there yet? Nobody. I'm sorry. Be as close as you can to, just my thought, but be more creative on what a playground is. And it could be open space. I just wouldn't spend I wouldn't spend $167,000 on playground when they're all going to be running across the street to the world's biggest playground, which y'all did a fabulous job on. Anyway, that's just my thought.
the new playground has a splash pad too,
I
doesn't
think
it?
it has a splash pad, right?
Well,
Does it?
Has misting area.
It's a
Asked
missed
for a
thing.
splash pad after we approved it. I told her she was late on that one, but she got in on
Okay.
Oscar Fraser.
It's got a misting station, not a splash pad at.
She's gonna be the
site.
first one to go
And she's
through
going to
it.
be standing under there telling all the kids to leave.
Me and Dan,
Anyways, it's,
And Pat.
when he leaves the zip line, we'll be over there.
I hope it's in the wintertime.
Sorry, Pat. You do a great, thank you for humoring us.
New Riverside Village Park, we're going to have to come back to you with what we're going to end up presenting or moving forward with.
Thank you.
Just a couple slides of things that are, in the design phase and ready for, going to be completed this fiscal year, some of it. The restroom facility at the Trailhead Park, and then that image to the left is kind of an initial concept that we just received on Buckwater Place.
Pat, but this is going where we went, where the parking area is on the trail, right? Where we went that time
Yes.
and walked? Yeah, okay.
Also, really quick, Pat, can you go back to that image? Well, that amphitheater style seating there actually be retrofitted to where the stage and that go in conjunction, because the one at the Buckwalter Park is not aligned. It's like it's opposite.
That is the park that you're talking about.
It is.
This is an image of
That's the
of
Evercore Park that has.
I thought he was taking that as an example.
Evercore Park, yeah. That was Buckwater Place Park, Phase 2.
But that's in the Evercore Park we bought, right?
That is.
That is the park.
Yes.
And we're just starting design on this. We're not ready to kind of present much. I just wanted to show you that that we are working on it. At this point, we're going to bring this to you in January for a workshop. The last bucket is items that are in the design phase that the construction will not happen until really fiscal year 25 and beyond. And Calhoun and Boundary Street streetscapes fall in that category because, we're kind of stuck in a design phase where we're trying to get information from Dominion for their underground power facilities and equipment, and they don't want to really give that to us until we can make assurances to them that we can get all the easements required to bury the main transmission line on May River Road. So we're kind of in a holding pattern, but we are meeting with 4 property owners along May River Road in order to try to get some assurances of future easements on that. 2 of the properties are kind of undeveloped, so it's kind of, it's difficult to get people to agree with easements on that right away, but we're working our way through it to try to get these easements so that we can get Dominion to give us the information so we can proceed forward with final design. It's one hand feeds the other, it looks like. HD sewer extension phase 4, 5, and 6, we're well along in design on that and permitting. We just need to get the final easement, so there's some holdouts and there's some people that are willing to give us easements, but I expect that to continue for the remainder of the fiscal year. So I assume this project will be more of a fiscal year 25 construction.
Ask a question. So, on the Calhoun boundary, Calhoun is going to be the most complicated of the 2. That's where the majority of the businesses lie. There may be some, you won't be able to bore everything in. You'll have open trench, things like that. Boundary, not so much. Boundary has the possibilities where they could bore just about everything on boundary. So I would, in your conversations with them, what I'm trying to get at is boundary could probably move forward more realistically than Calhoun could, because even if you do your work and they have to come back and bore it in, it's not the end of the world if they can't bore in ahead of time. I'm just planting a thought.
No, I agree with you. I think I'd like to get moving on Boundary Street if we can. It is complicated because there are a lot of utilities in that road right away. It's only 30 foot wide, so it's tight. So, yeah, I would like to move forward with Boundary as soon as we can.
Would that, Pat, run on the park side or the residential side?
Are you talking about utilities?
Yeah.
They're on both sides. There's a force main going down the east side. There's water going down the right, the west side. There's water, and there's a sewer line going down the center of the road.
But at least the town owns over half of that property.
Yeah, they own a good
The
portion.
linear part of where we'll need a right of way, so that should take, wouldn't be, but what, 3 or 4 other owners that I could think of.
Does
The
Buford,
church being
sorry,
one
Claire, I didn't mean to call them those. Does Buford Jasper have easements for their part on Boundary Street? Are they there legally?
Pretty sure they're in the DOT right away.
Yeah, I think they're
You're saying
right
that
away.
sewer's on one side, something's in the middle, and water's on the opposite.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that everything they used to do is not recorded.
Yeah, I think they're mostly in the right of way, and I
Okay.
think we'll of course, we'll be adding storm drainage down both sides, so
Okay. That makes it
it's getting separation from
more
all those
complicated.
things.
Okay.
Pathway and pedestrian safety improvements, quickly, that's under design. There's a number of easements that were required for that, so we expect that will be a fiscal year 25 construction project.
What did we approve on that? I thought we voted on this.
Maybe a contract?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
the consultant contract.
To design them, to do the work here so we can, to
I thought it
construct them.
said design and construction.
Right, we're in design right now.
So we've already got it funded
So
for
it's
the
already,
construction.
okay, sorry. Thought we
Yeah, it's under design, construction will be next year. Same thing really applies to the second phase of Bridge Street. That's kind of west of Calhoun Street. We've got a good start on the design, but we'll have to get easements for that. So we don't expect construction to start till '25. The linear trail, again, we're well on the design. We're expecting to bid that maybe this spring. We have some funding now that we can rely upon. The next two projects are drainage project, which Dan Ryback is here. If you have any questions about that, the comprehensive drainage plan was something you approved 2 years ago to start that. There's a detailed report on Hayward Cove that's complete, and now he's working on the next scope of work, which would be UG Cove, Verdier Cove, and Crooked Cove. So those are major drainage studies that are being done. And then, of course, projects will come out of that in the end, individual projects. May River Water Action Plan, impervious restoration projects. Dan has kind of started the site assessments in coordination with several property owners there. Most of them are really school properties that seem to be willing to work with us on that. And he's working on a policy document that he can use to talk to owners about, and then site evaluations of other potential impervious restoration projects. So there'll be other projects in the future that come out of that. And then the last project is a new project this year, which is townwide wayfinding signage. That's not just signage in the historic districts, which you've already done previously. This is more regional signage, and that is just scheduled to have some design work done this fiscal year. You get in your packets these schedules every month, so I won't go through any of this, but just looking in this, in the colors on it, the red is construction. So in this first page of the 38 projects, there's a lot of construction that's going to get started this fiscal year, either under construction or will be. Then the next page is more projects that have come online later. We're still in the heavy design phase of those projects. So once those initial construction startups happen, we'll probably go into a heavy design phase before we get more construction contracts.
I know she's passing that out. Can you send us this presentation?
Sure.
I would love that.
So one of the reasons I'll do it in 30 seconds. One of the reasons that we wanted to have this conversation, have Pat present this tonight, is strategic plan is in 2 weeks. We wanted y'all to kind of get an idea of where the CIP projects are at currently, what's under construction, what's design, and all that, so that when we get into CIP in or when we get into the strategic plan in a couple weeks and start having some conversations, you kind of have a baseline already of where we're at with a lot of the projects.
And I have a couple of questions, but I figured we could do it at strategic plan, and not do it tonight. You've got another 10 years of work to do, Pat, so I'm glad you're working through retirement.
We're gonna
We don't retire, reallocation.
So, refresh my memory on how many millions of dollars have we already approved for these? I know it's not enough to complete them all.
This budget cycle was 28 million, right?
I was thinking it was about 30 or so.
Chris, the money man, can answer
I
that.
think y'all have a great team, and thank y'all for coming to be support for Pat. Anything else? Thank you, Glenn. This was a good workshop. Anything? Wish the three of these guys good luck tonight. At least they come to council meetings. I appreciate that very much. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So,